This is the second in a series of videos recapping web authoring with Dreamweaver. And in this session we are going to be looking at the basic structure of a HTML document, and we're going to do that using a normal web browser and the tools that are contained within it. And along that way we're going to be identifying and describing the key HTML elements that you would encounter. Okay, so what I'm going to direct you to is the example.eastridingmedia.co.uk website, which was set up for the foundation degree a couple of years ago. It's a very simplistic example of how you produce a website. But within there, underneath the level 2 media section, there is an intro to formatting start page. You can click on that, that will take you to a sub-site which actually gives quite a good introduction to HTML, and if you're struggling to remember from last year, this would be the place to come. For example, it gives a basic introduction to what the web is, an introduction to web authoring software, including some YouTube videos on the Dreamweaver workspace and how it works, so additional content compared to this. A video on page structure, which is what we're discussing but from a slightly different perspective in this video, and some of the key elements of a website. So talking about how to format text, talking about the elements in the head, talking about style sheets. But for this example we're going to focus on the page that's an introduction to formatting text in HTML. Okay, so in every web browser you can actually bring up a code inspector. I'm using Chrome currently. F12 brings it up in that browser, and it's a similar shortcut in Opera and in Internet Explorer. I'm sure you'll be able to find it. You can also in Chrome right click an element and inspect the element, and it will take you to that point in time within the page and highlight it so you can see what is going on at the same time. So we're going to look at the document structure, and so I'm going to collapse everything. So currently we've got the definition, which is HTML5, and then we've got two HTML tags, the opening and closing tag, which is the start and the end of the document. Within there is everything that describes the page and its content. So if we look at the head, we've got the character set, which is UTF-8. We've got the title, HTML page structure, which is displayed at the top of the tab, and then we've got a link to a style sheet. It's quite a simple style sheet, but if I open that in a new tab, you'll see the CSS that's there. So there's a rule about headings, and H1 in particular. There's a rule for a class called code, for anchors, for the body itself, and for the header. So there's not an awful lot in the head at the moment, and the head is essentially the area where all of your linked files, so your code, quite a lot of JavaScript might wind up in there, your CSS links to those kind of things, metadata, which might be a description, might be keywords, you might put in the author of the page. There's quite a few different elements you could put in there for metadata. And then we've got the body, which is the visible part of the page, and you can see I'm hovering over body and it highlights everything currently. And if I scroll up, we'll see what we've got. So we've got a banner image, we've got some links, we've got another image, we've got a heading, and we've got various different types of text, different types of hyperlinks, that take us to different places in the document. So that one takes us to an anchor at the end of the document, and some definition lists, unordered lists, ordered lists, that kind of thing. Okay, so I'm looking here and I can see the header. There's nothing in between the header tags. That's because it's actually a background image, so everything's done by CSS. But if I right click this and open a new tab, it will show me that image separately, which is set to a specific height and width. One of the benefits you can have with using this method is you can have a little play around with other people's websites if you want. to see how they work. So you see I've just extended that, and what's happened is it's been repeated. Let's take that back to 1000 pixels, which is as it was. You can even turn it on and off. So without the height, it will disappear. And then we've got the nav, which stands for navigation. And so we've got two tags that describe that this is a navigation area. So if I hover over that, you'll see all of the links at the top of the page highlighted. And each link is described by an A tag, which stands for anchor. Within it, it's got a reference, which is a link to where it goes to, and then it's got some text which is visible to the end user, and then the tag is closed. You can put other attributes in there. So for instance, quite a lot of these have got something known as a title, and a title will appear as a tooltip when you roll over a link. So for example, on page structure's got a tooltip. I hover over it and it tells you that this is an introduction to HTML page structure, and some of us have got those too. So that's navigation. It's very simple. It's just some text with hyperlinks. Then we've got a div called main image, and so a div is basically a divide or a division. It's just an area of divs are used mainly for positioning content within the page in blocks, in big blocks. Inside of there we've got a link, and inside of the link we've got an image. And so what I've done with this is it's an image or a screenshot of another website, a website that I quite like the look of. So I've put a link to the website itself so that it's quite clear that it's not actually my content. I've put an alternative description which is read out by screen readers, and I've got a title for when I hover over it. So then it pops up, Envelopes website screenshot. If I was to click on it, or maybe even open a link in a new window, it will take me to that page, which still looks pretty much the same as it did a couple of years ago when I took that screenshot. Okay, then we've got an article, which is quite a new tag. It's new to HTML5. It's a meaningful tag. So it says this is an article. So if I scroll down, we'll see this is the start of the article, and then within that we can have different sections. And the usefulness of that is that you can style different sections so that they're obviously distinct. Equally, you can have different articles if you wish. So in this page I've got one article, and I think I've got one section too. Within that I've got H1, which is the heading. And so, as you remember, headings they go from H1 to H6, and their order hierarchy. You can only have one H1 in every page. You can have as many H2, H3, H4 to H6 as you like. And then we've got the P, which makes up the bulk of the page, which is the paragraph. So every paragraph has a start and end point. So when you press return in design view of Dreamweaver, you would get a new paragraph. And they're quite often displayed with quite big margins between each other. And we've got some other examples. So for example, this is a block quote, and a block quote is usually given some speech marks, it's given some white space around it, it's indented, and then we've got a citation, which is quite a common way of illustrating where a source, or what a source is for a piece of work that you've done, usually used in research. It's good practice to source all of your references. Okay. And then further down we can see the bottom of the section ends, the article ends, and then we've got a little footer. So if I go to the footer, that's got a copyright in there, and then we've got the end of the body, the end of the HTML. That's the end of the page structure. Okay. Just before we finish, I'm just going to go back through some of the parts of the page. Okay. So inside of that div we've got an image, and the tag for an image is actually img. And technically speaking, an image tag should have a self-closing which is a forward slash before the end of the tag. So when I say a tag, what I mean is it's defined by an angle bracket to the left and angle bracket to the right. That is a tag. Everything contained within it is an attribute. So you've got the name of the tag. In this case we've got the source, so that's where the image is saved. So that's saved in a folder called images, and then we've got attribute for width and height, and as I said before, attributes for alternative, description and title. And the difference between that and the header image is the image is set with the background image property. Okay. And that will conclude this second video.